Hello everyone, hope you guys are enjoying your day. In this video, I want to go through The Orphan and the Sorceress, chapter 1 of my book, Occult and the Birth of Life with you guys. So I'll be discussing my inspiration, my thought process, and what I use as a blueprint to write either the entire chapter or some of the paragraphs. So let's get into it. Obviously, if you're going to write something, the first thing you need to do is think about the plot. That's you consider what you want the story to be about and what will actually be in the story. And if you remember my last video, if you watched my last video, I said that when I decided to focus on the point of view of the magic girl, what I did was I went and read Harry Potter. And that's why the things in Harry Potter served as the foundation of my book. And what I mean is, whether it was things I did not like, things I like that I wanted to do, or things I consider plot hole that I wanted to fix. An example is something like Hermione, for instance, in Harry Potter. You know, Hermione is depicted as a very empathetic person. You know, when she sees that people are enslaving elves, she decided to start. I don't know, but I think at the end of Harry Potter, there's something. If you go and search in different places, you see where they said she started a movement to stop the enslavement of elves and those kind of things. So because of Hermione, I started considering that, okay, she's someone who can do this kind of thing, start movement to solve this kind of issues. So I started thinking that, but then she's a muggle. So why is it that she hasn't started a movement to end the magical statute of secrecy? You get, because in the magical community, they have spells where, I think it was in book 2 or 3, where Harry lost all his limbs, all his bones in his hand. Then there was a potion or something he drank in the clinic that made his bone grow overnight. So I'm like, how will the wizarding world have this kind of potions and cures and spells, and yet they are surely still cripples in the Muggle world, you get? And yet people like Dumbledore and Hermione, who claim to be friends of Muggle and all that, don't care. They are not championing or campaigning for the wizarding world and the Muggle world to come together. Even things like, why is it that the wizarding world are not using telephone and they are still using house, when instead of using house they can start using telephones? All these kind of questions. And because of that, I started wondering that, okay, what if in my book I make it that the villain in the world in my book wants to end the statute of secrecy, so that, you know, the suffering of mere men and muggles will stop, that kind of idea. So that's where that idea came from. And another thing I thought about was, alright, so another thing is that I think Dumbledore placed a spell over either Harry Potter or the Dursley's household, so that to protect him, as long as Harry keeps coming back to the Dursley's household every summer or every holiday, he's going to be protected against Voldemort, and Voldemort will not be able to lay a hand on him. Yeah, so I started, when I was reading it, I noticed things like, okay, you are saying that because of this spell Dumbledore placed on Harry, nobody can touch him. But at the same time, at the beginning of the Philosopher's Stone, I think we're told that there are many times Harry will be on the street and a random wizard will meet him and say, ah, the boy who lived, greet him and leave. And even though Harry does not understand what's going on, they still, us, we understood that, okay, these people are respecting him or hailing him for being the one who took down Voldemort. And then I'm thinking that, despite that spell that Dumbledore placed over these Harry Potter's or the Dursley's household, the same way that all these random wizards are coming to meet Harry and greet him, can't there be one of Voldemort's followers who come and kill Harry? I think there's an explanation of how most of them are scared, because Voldemort is dead and they don't want to expose themselves. But what if there was someone who was as crazy as Bellatrix now, who found Harry and killed him? What would have not been the case? So I think that an easy way to fix this issue would have been if Dumbledore placed Harry under the Fidelius charm, where he would be invisible from every single wizard. You get? So what I did was I said, okay, since Barbara Occult Mother placed her under hiding, that's when I was planning my own decision. Why don't I say she placed her under a spell like the Fidelius charm that will hide it from every single person? And that's where my idea came, that you see in the first chapter came. All in all, there are many things in Harry Potter that served as the foundation of my book, especially this chapter 1. Especially chapter 1. Whether it was things I liked, things I did not like, or things I considered plot hole and I wanted to fix. Then another thing is that in philosophers, another thing is that in the Philosopher's Stone, that's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry was looking into that mirror, we were told that at least we were shown that Harry's deepest desire was his parents, that's his family. So I was always wondering that, okay, if what Harry wants more than anything in the world is to have his family back, his mother and his father who died protecting him. And then he's in a world of magic. Why is it that he has never even asked the question of, okay, is it possible to bring my parents back to life? I know that in Harry Potter, now, I think it was around the final book 7 or book 6, where they started showing us about the resurrection stone and all that it's not actually possible to bring anybody back. But I was just thinking that in that book 1, book 2, why didn't he ever wonder, is it possible to bring my parents back to life? Yeah. And that's what now became the foundation of my book. That, okay, my main character, her dream is to find a way to bring her mother back to life. So the main thing is, all in all, Harry Potter served as the foundation for my book in many different ways. Whether it was me taking an idea from something I liked, or me finding a way to fix something I did not like or I considered a plot hole, or even me learning how to write by studying the prose in Harry Potter. But for the plot of this first chapter itself, I took it from, I think it was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. You know that scene where Dumbledore takes Harry on his own. So for the plot of this first chapter, I took that scene in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince where Dumbledore took Harry on a trip through his memory. The time where he went to Woo's cottage or Woo's orphanage to meet Tom Riddle, that's when Voldemort was a child. So I used that entire scene as my blueprint. So my plot for this, what I had in mind when I started writing this first chapter was that the magician who is coming to get Barbara Occult would appear in the city. She walk over to the orphanage, and I wanted her to walk over to the orphanage to depict how the city is, because I decided to set it in a ruined city. That's maybe after World War IV or World War III. So if she gets to the orphanage, she will talk to the matron of the orphanage, the same way Dumbledore talked to the matron of the orphanage. Then after their talk, the matron will then take her to go and meet Barbara Occult. She will talk to Barbara Occult. After their talk, she will now leave the orphanage with Barbara Occult, and that's how the chapter would end. So the chapter was going to begin in the night, because first a certain thing that I will explain later in the chapter, the spell that was protecting Barbara Occult from the magical community broke at midnight. So my distance was going to begin in the midnight. And back when I was trying to learn how to write, I was watching hundreds of YouTube videos, and all of them would be like, if you want to write your first book, if you want to learn how to write, the most important thing is your hook. And so since my book is about magic, obviously the hook was going to be about magic, and first of all, I needed to use a hook to show the readers that, okay, this book is about magic and stuff like that. Then to also show who the character was, that's to show that this character is a nice person. That's why I decided to make it that the alley where the magician would appear would be an alley where there are two homeless men sleeping. Then maybe one of them will be covering himself with a newspaper, while the other one will be shivering with his hands locked between his legs, so that she will use the magic to turn the newspaper into blankets, then cover the other one. Then for the sorceress herself, originally it was meant to be a man. It was meant to be a magician, just like a carbon copy of Dumbledore, where it's supposed to look like Dumbledore, everything. In fact, when I was looking for the name, I was browsing all types of names for a wizard. I did not see any name that fits, so I was not looking for a name. And I now just got the idea to just use wizard, then I now saw Dumbledore now. Look at that name, Dumbledore. I decided to wizard, and I put bull in between, so wizard. But then when I started thinking about it, I was just like, I don't know, like it's strange or it's weird for a man to go to an orphanage, an all-girls orphanage, to pick up a girl. So I decided to say, okay, for that reason, let me change the magician will go to get Barbara Occult into a woman. Then for that name, Wizard, because I like the name, and then I decided to use it for someone else in the book, for the Grand Councilman, but that's in a later chapter. And that Semra herself, if you go to Instagram and search Semra Hunter, there is a real person that has that name. And the person is a pundit or a newscaster, I don't know. But the thing is that back then, because I'm a very big football fan, but back then when I used to watch La Liga, the only thing I cared about in La Liga was Barcelona. So that's, if I'm watching Barcelona matches, then sometimes I also watch Real Madrid matches, so just to hope that they will lose. But after every match in the night, there will always be a news this thing, Viva La Liga, that will come on and watch it, and they will also be giving highlights of other clubs and everything. And because of those highlights, they need to give of the other clubs, the matches other clubs played. And I started watching other matches, and that's what made me like La Liga as a whole, not just Barca or Real Madrid. And the news anchor for that this year, her name was Semra Hunter. And maybe because of the way she used to smile and everything, I just decided to use her name for Semra Hunter in my own book. So Semra will appear in the alley, use magic to help those homeless men, and walk over to the orphanage. Right, so when she gets to the orphanage, she will knock, and the custodian of the orphanage will open the door. When he opens the door, we'll now take her and go and introduce her to the matron. Then the matron, after seeing Semra, shows her a picture, and she understands that the picture is a picture of Semra and a lady. And that lady looks just like a girl who is also in the orphanage. So you add 5 and 6, you know that this is that girl's mother. So she will take Semra into her office to talk about the whole thing. And obviously, and as I said, what I used as my blueprint to write this scene was the one in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. There's even this scene where Semra and the ladies are about to start talking, and Semra makes a cup of coffee. Semra makes a jug of coffee to appear on the table. And so the lady outside, she wants to drink, then they'll start pouring she'll pour for Semra and pour for herself, and they'll start drinking. And that scene I got it from that same scene in Harry Potter. Even the one where the matron asked Semra for, even the one where the matron asked Semra for like proof on things like she can prove that she can take care of Semra, all those kind of documents. Semra will show her the same picture that she has already given her. And that same thing I think the same thing happened in Harry Potter, where the matron asked Dumbledore for this, and he just showed a blank piece of paper, and she was seeing something else in it. And that's the same place I got it from. So after they talk about things, they'll talk about how Occult is intelligent. And another reason why I decided to make Occult very intelligent, because usually, if you notice, the main characters in all these fiction, whether it's in anime or in normal, the main characters are usually not the smartest person, or they're usually not very smart. The reason I wanted to make Barbara very smart was because of something that happened in Harry Potter that annoyed me. And that was, I think it was still in book 7, book 6, still in the Half-Blood Prince. And that was where Harry was looking for Malfoy, because Malfoy was hiding inside the room of requirements. And this guy, he's looking for Malfoy, and in the Marauder's map, you see that Malfoy always used to go to, I think, one of the floors, whether it's 5th floor or something, and he always used to disappear when he goes to that 5th floor. And Harry has gone to that 5th floor to look for Malfoy, and he always didn't see Malfoy when he was there. And there's still a time when I thought that maybe Harry had figured it out. When he summoned Dobby, he was like, okay, he has figured it out. He now summoned Dobby and told Dobby to go and look for Malfoy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There is still a time in the previous book where you were looking for a room for you guys to practice how to learn magic. It was still Dobby you brought and asked him to go and help you look for a room to practice magic. And the room Dobby found was the room of requirement. And he's on that same floor where Malfoy is disappearing, and you still not figured out that Malfoy is hiding in the room of requirement. And it was just like, this guy, I don't know if this guy is dumb or something. Because J.K. Rowling always used to do this in all her books. She will give us hints at the beginning, or she will just outright tell us what it is at the beginning of the book. But in a way where we won't really realize until later on where we now. Like in book 1, I think they told us who Nicholas Flamel was in the card at the beginning, one of the earliest chapter. But since it's just like a throwaway word, you don't remember it later on. But this particular one wasn't just about, okay, she plays it, so it was just about Harry was just dumb for no reason. Something that anybody would figure out. He got, all the pieces were looking at him, he still didn't figure it out. Then he now brought Dobby, who was supposed to remind him, because he has asked Dobby to search for that room of requirement before, and he still didn't figure it out. So I was just thinking about the whole thing, and I don't have time for, if I'm going to be someone who has to make my character dumb for the story to continue, and I'm not going to write that story at all. That's why I decided that, okay, I'm going to make Barbara smart, so that if there's any hint that she should figure out, she'll figure it out immediately. I don't have time for, if you make the story short, then let him make the story short. So the mentor will tell them everything about Barbara, even including how when she was a child, that's around 8 years old, she awoken to her magic, and when she showed the matron about that she could do magic, the matron brought Reverend Fathers and seminarians to come and exercise them. And so since then, Barbara Occult has become reclusive, she has become silent, she has become an introvert. She doesn't like spending time with anyone. Yeah, so after talking, the matron will take Selma to go and meet Barbara Occult. When Selma meets Barbara Occult and the matron leaves, her and Barbara will start talking, and there will be a time where Barbara Occult will use style to ask her for proof of magic, because she can't ask outright. So because if she asks outright, it will be clear that okay, she can also do magic despite the exorcism. So she will use style. Then Selma will now show her the trick where she will pour water on the ground. Then she will cast a spell to make the water she poured on the ground to rise as water horses, before she will end it by telling all the horses to run back into the bottle of water. And this thing, even if you look at the spell she will cast, because after she casts the spell, she will start teaching Barbara Occult about how to cast the spell. And the spell is atropectonum. And from the spell itself, from the name atropectonum, you know that I got it from expecto patronum. I just change this small. You get, whenever Harry casts expecto patronum, we will have a light stag after his father, or donkey. A stag, I think. A stag will be running around. A stag made of light. So I wanted to do the same thing, but I just say it will be too on the nose. So I decided to make it with water. And another thing that made me want to use water is because I decided that later on, maybe at the end, Barbara Occult will use the same spell to defeat somebody. Since she tried to learn the spell now and it didn't work, I said, okay, when she will learn the spell, she will use it to defeat a villain or something. So after they do that spell, Selma will start explaining to Barbara why she hadn't come to get her since then, and that's when she will start explaining about the spell. I think, as I said in the beginning of the video, my inspiration for this was from me not liking the spell Dumbledore plays over Harry and thinking that it would have been better for him to use the Fidelius charm. And so the spell Barbara Occult's mother placed on her was to hide her completely from the magical community, which means anybody, even if a magician is looking for her and the magician is in her front in this same room, the magician wouldn't be able to see her or touch her, that kind of thing. So like, then if you couldn't find me since because of this spell, why can you now find me now? And she now explained that it's because Barbara Occult, the spell broke at midnight. She started explaining that, and this thing I was figuring it out while I was writing it. I didn't really understand, but all I know that it would have been better if Dumbledore used Fidelius charm. But I didn't know, okay, but if I make it that Barbara Occult's mother used the Fidelius charm on Barbara Occult, how will the spell now break? Because her mother is not here to break the spell. And I didn't want to start going through all those. I think in Harry Potter, the way another person will be privy to the spell, I think a secret something where the spell will be hidden in his heart or something. But then I couldn't write. So for me to now start adding more characters that would make everything more complicated would have been foolishness. So I had to find a way to make the spell break without any other person. So I was just trying to, it was for me, it was like a puzzle. I was trying to solve it while I was writing. And it was while I was writing, explaining it, the spell, that I now got the idea. My idea was that, let me make it so that the spell can only be placed on your property. And when the spell is placed on your property, only you can break it. That's on your, only, it can only be placed on your property or yourself. You get. So, because Occult was her mother's daughter, and since, okay, a parent can also place this on their child, because their child in a way is either their property, or maybe their child is in a way themselves. Those since parents are responsible for their children, so you can make decision the same way you can make decision for yourself, you can make decision for your child. So the thing was that when Babako turned 16, I think I've aged her up now to 17 because of for the timeline to match with other books I'm planning in this same world of vengeance and redemption. But this is when she turned 17, because she is no longer a child according to the rules of the magical community, and she has become an adult. The parent can no longer make rules and decisions for their child if their child becomes an adult. So that's where her mother casted on her becomes invalid, and that's why he broke at midnight, which is her birthday today. So after that, Semra will think you explain to Baba about it, about Sadagras, who is the dark wizard that is haunting her. When she explains about Sadagras, she will now explain about, I think Baba will not ask her about her father, but Semra refused to tell Baba anything about her father. And one of the reasons I decided to do this was, remember I said that Harry Potter is the foundation for this my book in many ways, and it's what inspired me. And the thing is, one thing I liked about Harry Potter was that every single Harry Potter book has a particular mystery, a central mystery that they have to solve by the end of the book. So me too, when I was writing my own, I decided that, okay, what kind of mystery will I put that will be what we are trying to solve? So I was looking for every kind of this thing. And I finally decided that, okay, it's going to be that Roboco's mother is the one who is dead, but her father is still alive. But Semra wouldn't tell her anything about her father. You get. So she has to be the one who will find her father. And I did not know, at that point, I did not know why. I did not know why does Semra not want to tell anything about her father. I did not know. Why does, I don't know where is her father? I did not know. Where is her father? Why hasn't her father come to find her by himself with the spell I book? I mean, I did not know. I don't know. I just that it's going to be very nice if Semra does not want to tell about her father, because why on earth wouldn't you want to tell somebody about their parents? Like, what's going on? It's to make people think. So that's why I decided on that this thing. That's why I decided that Semra won't want to tell. That will be the mystery of the book. Another mystery will be why Sadagras wanted her when she was small. And it's something else that people can theorize, and we'll find out in the later chapter. So after that whole thing, I think Semra will give Occult a little lesson on magic and about the breath of life. And that one, I think, was before around that same 220, 221. I think it was 220. It was early 220 when I was reading the Bible in Genesis, where it was talking about how God created Adam and Eve, where he said, and God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living thing. And one thing, there's another YouTube video I watched around that time. I think it's either a Sage the Programmer or Swag Kage video. They are Naruto YouTube channels, and he was talking about something like one of the reasons people like Naruto, or one of is I think he was talking about one of the people did not like Kaguya. One of the reasons people did not like Kaguya, and the theory was that in Naruto before Kaguya came, it was assumed that, okay, chakra is something that everybody has. So even children who are watching Naruto can be like, okay, then maybe they too, they have chakra, and they can delude themselves into thinking they have chakra and they can perform jutsus with enough training. But then when Kaguya came and they started brought the theory of how it was Kaguya that gives certain people chakra, that then it now destroyed that delusion of, okay, everybody, even us in the real world, can also have chakra. So I now got the idea. I said, okay, one thing that I can use to my advantage is if I make sure he's reading it feel like, okay, this is something that even me too might have. That's why I now decided to use that breath of life since in the Bible it says that God brought it to man's nostril, the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So all of us have the breath of life. And if the breath of life is what they are using to do magic in Bible code, then maybe us too can do the magic. Maybe us too can do magic. Yeah, and so the explanation is that since the breath of life is in us, by performing magic, they are breaking off a piece of that breath of life to perform something miraculous. Yeah, that kind of thing. Anyway, after Semra explained everything to Babako, she will leave the Babako alone in the room to get dressed and come and meet her downstairs. And that's when the thing about writing Babako is that she's a very, very complex character. She's very, very annoying to write, because if every other person that writes it is just a matter of, the only thing I'm thinking about is the plot. What do I need them to do? There's something I need them to explain so that this character will understand. There's something I need them to do so the plot will move on, and all this kind of thing. But with Bible Court, if I write, I'm always thinking, okay, this person can crack a joke now, and you just come on to write, okay, this person laughed or this other person laughed. But with Bible Court, I'm not thinking, is this joke something that will make her laugh? Even if she finds the joke funny, is she someone who will laugh at the joke? You know, that kind of thing. Everything is always what we Bible Court to do in this particular. I'm always considering her past and her mindset and everything to do every single thing. So then, when I'm writing this particular thing, after Shemra leaves and she takes the picture and she starts looking at it, I was like, I was like, and it just occurred to me that, okay, someone who has always been recluse, alone in the orphanage, she's the oldest person in the orphanage, which means all her friends had left. And even when her friends, the people who were her age mates were around, all of them were afraid of her because of that exorcism. And she always thought her mother abandoned her in this orphanage because since she had magic, she figured out that her mother also had magic. And obviously, someone who has magic will not die to the world that destroyed the world and left the world as a ruined city. So she always felt that the only thing was that her mother abandoned her. So I just thought that now that after all these years, suddenly she's getting hope that her mother actually loved her. And her mother left her here to protect her from someone else. And I just thought maybe that thought will make anyone cry. So I just waited that she will cry and then she will start plotting how she will get information about her father. Since though her mother is dead, she can still get the love of family from her father who is still alive, and she will find the way. So after that whole scene, Barbara gets dressed and I think she takes a chessboard and comes downstairs and she meets Semra. And Semra does say something about chessboard, and that one is foreshadowing for something else later on. So when they get downstairs, they'll start going out, and I think there is a scene in the book where when they get downstairs and start when he gets downstairs and start going out, you see that some men come to attack them and kidnap Bible Court. And that scene, I actually wrote that scene early this year. And look at this. I don't know if the two will be clear in the camera. I don't know if it will be clear in the camera, but this is where I was planning that scene. This is the chapter 1. I created this chapter 1, like, I finished writing chapter 1. I used 6 months to write this chapter 1 in 220. And I finished writing the entire Bible Court in December 2022. And since then, I've been writing the other books that will also be set in the world of vengeance and redemption. But since then, every once in a while, I get a new idea to come and add in Bible Court. Another thing is that when I was planning this Bible Court, originally I was planning for 7 books. Because again, I was using Harry Potter as my benchmark for everything. I was planning for 7 books. But then when I finished writing Bible Court in 2022, I started planning another book, in the next book that will be in the series, that's in the world of vengeance and redemption, not Bible Court book 2. And that next book was Afterward. Then even Afterward, I was planning for another book that will be about the world, then a different book that will be about pirates, and a different book that will be about the demon that is trapped in hell. While I was planning all of them, I was also thinking about like the final ending when everything comes together. And I was thinking that if I could have 7 books, because I was thinking of Afterward will have only 3 books. That's what I planned for Afterward, only 3 books. And I think I've already even foreshadowed Afterward here earlier. I foreshadowed it 2 times in this chapter. First, when the matron was talking about the only friend Babacot had in the orphanage, and how she had to divorce her husband because of the rules set by the colony. And so that's the first foreshadowing for after all. Then later on, I think when Selma summoned the newspaper to pour water, when she was showing Barbara why she cannot use wondrous magic, she poured water and so the newspaper. So that newspaper, I think I wrote what was written on it is a newscaster, a journalist admonition afterward. So I've throughout this book you see many foreshadowing for afterward. And I planned only 3 books for afterward, and then I was thinking if afterward has 3 books. And every other book that it series in this thing I was planning has only 3 books. If God has 7 books, he's going to mess up with the timeline, because I don't want her, because every book is going to be like 1 year after 1 year after, and she's going to be too old, and I don't want her to be that old by the time the main books that will wrap everything on comes around. So I decided to reduce it to only 3 books, like everyone else. So I had to like some of the ideas that I had for other books. I decided, like in this thing, after Occult and the Breath of Life, the next book was supposed to be Occult and the Imaginary Friend, and Occult and the Simex Friends, and Occult and the For the Lesser Evil Revolution, Occult and the Mysteries of Magic, Occult and the Council of Magic. But I had to cancel all the books in it. So we have only 2 books: Occult and the Breath of Life, Occult and the For the Lesser Evil Revolution, and Occult and the Council of Magic. So some of the things that were supposed to happen in Occult and the Imaginary Friend and Occult and the Simex Friend, I had to find a way to merge them back into this book one. And the first thing to do that was, I think the first place where I decided a chapter that I planned for book 2, I brought it into this book one, was I merged it with chapter 3 of this book. And so I had to lay the foundation for it, and these fights was meant to be what would be the foundation for that chapter that I brought from book 2 all the way to book 1 in chapter 3. Yeah, and this was how I was planning the fight. What I had in mind was that there are 7 branches of magic. So Selma will perform a spell against the men who came to kidnap Occult to demonstrate each of those branches of magic. So then after they take care of those men, Selma and Occult will talk about how the Council of Magic have invited her to answer for her crimes in the Hall of Magic. That's her crimes of, she just appeared in the Merman sector, she performed magic. She used magic on the Maelstrom, which is illegal. She used magic on the Merman. She also used magic in their building. When she was showing all these things, she appeared in their DC without permission. And now she used magic on all these people who came to kidnap Occult. So obviously she's breaking a sentence of secrecy. So she has to go and answer for the crime in book 2. In chapter 2. So after they talk, Selma of Occult will now find out that, okay, the reason the council are against Selma and after her is because it was one of their friends that helped Sadagras all these years ago to kill Occult's mother and to try to take Occult. So after I write that whole scene of Occult's having a mental breakdown. After she has a mental breakdown, her and Selma will now leave will now disappear from the district. And I wanted to end the chapter the same way I started it, with the same like parallel line. Selma appeared in the district. The way I wrote it is the same way I now made it. Okay, in one of the district dark alleys. That's how it left. And something else that I forgot to mention. I forgot many things, but it's fine. Maybe another time. Something else I forgot to mention was that when I was writing that fight, that's between Selma and the men who came to kidnap Occult, there is a time when Selma would turn one of the men. That's to demonstrate procreation. There was a time Selma would turn one of the men into a rat. And when she turns that man into a rat, the cat was supposed to come out of an alley and come and attack that man. So when I wrote that same thing, I now started thinking that it's going to make sense if this cat is not just coming out on nowhere, and maybe I foreshadowed the cat earlier. And since throughout that whole thing, Selma was in the orphanage, then I thought that the only way to foreshadow the cat is to place him in the opening line. And that's when I now went back to the opening line and put that, okay, the 2 men were sleeping, and there was also a cat in the alley that ran away when he saw Selma. And it's now that cat that came back to And that's the thing about foreshadowing. If there's anyone who is writing your own book, you don't need to plan every single thing from the beginning before you get to that time. Sometimes you can just write. When you write whatever you want to write. Then there are some things that after you've written that you say, okay, this thing is going to make sense if I foreshadow this thing. That's why you can now go back and look for a place where you can now foreshadow that thing and it will make sense. Even that line, something to end the video, let me just say something about the opening line. Original, right now, my opening line is something like, something sudden happened in one of the district dark alleys. A woman appears so suddenly and suddenly into an alley where But originally this was my thing. Originally this was supposed to be my originally this was supposed to be my opening line. In one of the district dark alleys, illuminated quite brilliantly by the attention-seeking moon in the sky. A woman appeared so suddenly and silently out of nothing that the two people sleeping in the alley. The first was covered by two newspaper print sheets serving Polly as a blanket, while the second was shivering with both arms locked tightly between his laps. Didn't seem to notice her. This woman's name was Emma Hunter. So when I wrote that thing, funnily enough, it was early this year. I gave one of my friends that thing to read. And the first thing this monkey said after he just read, like as I sent him the thing to me, just 2 seconds later, he came back and told me that, guy, if you are saying that the district is illuminated quite brilliantly by the attention-seeking moon, how can you now say that the alley is dark? Because I said in one of the district dark alleys. I'm like, okay, that somehow makes sense. Now, in one of the district dark alleys, illuminated quite brilliantly is somehow contradictory.
So no really that like like what thing you talk there makes sense. So you just be like say you describe something we I don't know waiting be my first thought now say you describe something where they really black but then the moon they really bright. So me say it bright but how it come black. But then you need talk say the na dark time. Because even with only the moon supposed to people say yes it did dark, but then people don't really know say it did really dark. So I don't know whether you guys find a different way to convey what they actually mean. Anybody will read that I'm gonna understand what they mean now. And I just say you they paint two very different pictures, but then it go I understand what you mean, but I don't know. Maybe if you think small, if you find where you go put them. That's not what talk as I go. I did my. I don't really like the WhatsApp. I did my gallery to read them again, and I couldn't know like it's gonna be like you talk kind of like they quite brilliant. Like how they like you stress it the thing they bright like mad. Yet they use dark describe them. I don't know, guy. See the thing whether you supposed keep that ending part like the name her calling her name or just leave it the way the second one is that I don't know. Yes, guy. Make I see the look.
Something else was that he said that because I said illuminated quite brilliantly by the attention-seeking moon in the sky. The guy was now like, where else will the moon be if not in the sky? That is what I wrote, not tautology or something. It's not redundant. That's why I now started thinking about the whole thing. I could not now do anytime I think about the line will be itching me. That's why I now decided to change it into this new one of something sudden happened in one of the district dark alleys. Anyway, if you've not yet read this thing, you can go and read it on our website tuba.com. I will link the website in the video, and please like this video and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.